how often do you have to update your will, or are there certain times you should be thinking about doing it? I certainly know in family law, it's a really crucial time if you're going through a separation to look at your estate planning. But what about any other times, or why is it so important during a separation to focus on estate planning as well, along with all the other stresses you have going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there's so many times where, you need to be thinking about updating your will. Often people think, I've got a will, it's in place, I've done it, and I've ticked that box, but that's really not, it's not how you have to look at your estate planning. Estate planning is fluid. It moves with you. Whenever you're having a change of circumstance, whatever that may be, whether that's a marriage, a divorce, a separation, entering into a new de facto relationship, those types of situations, in addition to things like selling assets, those are the times that we really need to be thinking, hang on a minute, are my estate planning documents up to date? In relation to a separation, why is it important to update your will? A lot of people think, oh, I'll wait for the divorce.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. When you're separated, your current will, if you have one, is still in place, and often that's gifting most of your estate to your spouse. And when you're going through a separation, that's probably not what you're hoping for. So it's so important, if you're going through a separation, to have a chat to an estate planner and discuss your circumstances, and they can give you some advice and work on an estate plan that's going to suit you.
Yeah. And I certainly know that give in my initial interviews when I do my family law strategy sessions, give that advice. I say, you really need to talk to Olivia or, someone else if it's more complicated. Get that estate planning sorted ASAP, even though it just feels like another thing that you've got to think about.
It can be really overwhelming going through a separation. As you mentioned, Kristal, there's you're going through a lot of hardship, and there's so many things to manage. But getting onto your estate planning should be a priority, because the implications if you don't can be problematic, and it's coming back to that choice. It's coming back to that choice. So we want to make sure that that the person who's making the will is making the decisions, and is making decisions that are right for them.
Yeah. And I mean, we certainly discussed a few weeks back that case, which is probably your worst nightmare, where somebody involved in family law proceedings had passed away, and their former spouse was able to come in under the powers of the estate and discontinue the proceedings. And so, I mean, that was just a stark example of worst case scenario. It's obviously quite depressing in a way, well, talking about wills and estates. It's not exactly the most, glamorous area of law, and it really probably makes us think about the fragilities of life. But I think it's so important not to just put it into the too hard basket, because it is a bit anxiety inducing having to
You're
navigate.
so right.
And I certainly know that other clients that you've dealt with have experienced that feeling of, it's quite triggering or anxiety inducing to have to think about what would happen to me if I passed away, and my children and my estate and all of those things. But I know that having you by their side, guiding them through and taking that more bespoke approach where, you're not just writing it all in a document, you're actually having these, calls, Zoom. I know we were doing that before lockdown, the Zoom call to really find out about people and their families and their situations. Because like you said, we're all really different and unique. Families are, so different these days. It's not the modern traditional mum and dad still together. There's often extended families and blended families and all sorts of things. So I think it's, that bespoke approach is sort of how we approach it.
Yeah, 100%. Because you're so right. And part of what we do in offering that personal service is making sure that our clients feel heard. And often, in an estate plan, that could be, so many things, but sometimes that's a letter of wishes, where someone is literally writing a letter to their executor. So that's the person who's managing or administering the estate, or a letter to, the potential guardian that they've appointed under their will of their children. So we want to make sure,
Powerful.
as I've mentioned time and time again, that our clients feel empowered in this process, because it is very confronting and it definitely can be triggering. But
Yeah.
we want to make it as positive as we can.
Yeah, I think that's the key. It's an empowering process when it's done in the right way.
100%.
Oh,
That's what we're
well,
aiming for. Yeah.
thank you so much for getting on the Zoom. And I'm sure, during lockdown, we'll do a few more videos and maybe go into detail about some of the areas a bit more. And
Definitely.
like you said, anyone can jump on our website, kristallayers.com.au, and book in a meeting with yourself to do estate planning, or for all the family law side of things, jump on a call with myself.